Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to this week's online webinar brought to you by Hope on the platform of Sunni Dawati Islami. Alhamdulillah, we have covered many topics over the past few months within the employability and skills development, career guidance, and career insight series. If you missed any of these sessions, please visit the SDI Media YouTube channel, or if you prefer the podcast side, then please visit Spotify, Google, and others. In the next coming weeks, we have many more sessions lined up. Inshallah, further more details will be provided at the end. To ensure you receive up-to-date information, we recommend all the viewers who have access to social media to please follow Hope on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. The details will be shown on your screen throughout the sessions today. Just a reminder, if the viewers have any questions during today's session, please do share them on the question and answer section of Zoom and YouTube, where we will be asking these questions to our guest speaker during and towards the end of the session. However, we do recommend a Zoom platform for more of an effective online experience. Now, I will pass on the session to our host for today, Maulana Muazzin.
Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
How are you, Maulana?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good, thank you. Jazakallah.
Alhamdulillah, mashallah. I'd like to you can take this session on from now.
Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, I would like to welcome all the viewers and participants of this session to the platform of Team Hope, as mentioned before, brought to you by Sunni Dawat Islami. Alhamdulillah, these sessions have been running for many weeks now, and I've been joining in online via the Zoom platform, and Alhamdulillah, I feel that they have been extremely effective for all those that have taken part. So I would recommend if you send the messages out far and wide to all those you feel that would benefit from this session today, which is in regards to apprenticeships. Now, this does not only apply to those who are leaving school or leaving college, rather to everyone. From previous experience as well, I believe that apprenticeships nowadays are becoming more and more widespread, and many people who are later on in their lives as well are also applying for apprenticeships, and I'm sure our guest speaker will touch on this later on in the session. Alhamdulillah, these sessions have been running with the blessings and du'as of our Amir, our Daya Kabir, our leader, Amir Sunni Dawat Islami, Hazrat Allama Maulana Shakir Noori, Maddazillahul Ali, and the guidance of our guide, Bulbul Bagh Medina, Al-Hajj Qari Muhammad Rizwan Sahab, Qibla Maddazillahul Ali. Alhamdulillah, these sessions have been running for many weeks, and as been mentioned, many sessions will follow. So we make dua that inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant success to Team Hope and all those that are involved in this great initiative in order to bring the Muslim community and the further wider community that we live in further forward in this day and age, and to give them the skills and the tools that they need in order to progress and prosper in this world that we live in nowadays. Inshallah, as mentioned, today's session will be on apprenticeships, and as mentioned as well, if you have any questions throughout the session, then do send them through to us, and we'll present them to our guest speaker who is with us. And I would like to welcome our guest speaker on the screen now. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So,
Brother Maulana.
How are you? Obviously, Sabbir Uncle, you've been here before, Alhamdulillah, and we've seen two other webinars that you have done prior to this, giving us understanding and giving us an insight into the wider world, and giving the younger generation the tools and skills that they require to prosper, to move forward. Alhamdulillah, as the viewers are aware, and Sabbir Uncle now is not in any need of introduction, as we must have already heard previously, that he has been in education for many years. I mean, as long as I can remember, he has been in education, and I have myself been to Sabbir Uncle for many advice, and I have seen him in and around the masajid, in the madrasa, alhamdulillah, and now he is the head of year, alhamdulillah, in Eden Boys School, and alhamdulillah, as we know, he has been through many different institutions, colleges, and now, alhamdulillah, he's in a high school. So I would hand it over to Sabbir Uncle if you want to take forward this session. And as mentioned to the viewers, inshallah, I will present to you any questions that are relative to the topic that's been discussed at that point. And any further questions anyone may have, inshallah, we'll present it at the end. So over to you, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, dear viewers. The introduction obviously explained, although my poster initially did say school and college leavers, apprenticeships now apply to a wider age group anyway, and it is important that, you know, in particular for young people, but if you are older and looking for opportunities, it's still worthy of looking at opportunities that are there. And throughout the presentation that I do, I will explain apprenticeships and what they're about, and then people can sort of make decisions based on the organisations, the companies, and different forms of jobs and opportunities that are there. And then people can make choices that way as well. Again, like I said, this is my third session, and I wanted to sort of wrap it up, because part of the objectives that I had at the beginning was to give an overall picture of the opportunities and options that are out there. And then in the second session, I talked about university. And if I may just spend 2 minutes touching on that. And the reason why I did university earlier on is because now in November, most people at college applying for universities should have completed their personal statements by now, and hopefully started an application process. And some colleges will have deadlines, internal deadlines, for people to complete application personal statements around this time. And so it's important that I did that, was it possibly about 4 or 5 weeks ago. And if anybody has questions at the end based on personal statements or university applications, I can take that at the end. But predominantly today is about jobs and apprenticeships. So I will bring my presentations on first. Mohsin, is that okay? Can you see that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so Bismillah. Apprenticeship has become a wider option. I think it's become quite favorable option actually for many people, and predominantly young people. And as I go along, it will become apparent the reason why apprenticeship have become a pick for quite a lot of young people. Basically, an apprenticeship is a word that has been there since when I was young. It is a job, and as you can read from there, an apprenticeship gives you a hands-on experience. So it is a job. You get paid for the work that you do, and you're getting a qualification as well at the same time with the employer that you get employed by. All right, so it's a job. You get paid for the job, and you continue to study while you're in the job at different levels. And again, I'll come to that in a minute. Even now, and this is where it's become really popular, some employers are even offering a degree through an apprenticeship as well. It's called level 4 or degree apprenticeships, which again I'll talk about. And the reason why it's become so popular is some big name companies, international, national companies, even local companies are offering some really good apprenticeship package, which are really attractive for young people. So it's become probably one of the choices that young people make. So that's basically a definition of what an apprenticeship is. Types of apprenticeships. Now, like I said, it is a job. So most employers, I would say 95% of employers would offer you an apprenticeship or a job with training. Basically, it's a job with training. I've just given some examples there. So if you are a young school leaver, college leaver, or left college and looking for opportunities, there are a range of different types of apprenticeships, different occupations, and I've just listed some there. Hopefully, if this works, I found a really good website which might take us there, which I can just show, hopefully. Yeah. Modern, is that, can you see that? Yeah.
No, I think you're presenting just the PowerPoint, so it's not showing.
Oh my, okay, sorry, no, that's fine. Let me just come off that again, sorry. Okay, so basically, yeah, you can opt for an apprenticeship in business and finance and accounting, customer service, retail, warehousing, engineering, construction, and there are a range of different other occupations that you can apply for. So depending what you are interested in, what young people is interested in, you can have a look at different opportunities within all these different occupations. And I wanted to show different on this website, but you can have a look at yourselves. So if you are watching, people can have a look at some of these and find out what these are about. But some of these titles are quite obvious. Business and finance is working in an office. You learn about the business, answering telephone calls, filing, working with others, making phone calls, dealing with customers, accounting. Retail is working in shops, serving customers. Warehousing, IT can include IT, working on computers, software as well, and software engineers. Then you've got engineering construction, which obviously is the next topic for a couple of weeks' time anyway. So there are a range of different opportunities within an apprenticeship. I think this is the important bit. I think people not realizing an apprenticeship can be at different levels. And how do you decide? How do you at 16, 17, 18 decide what level of apprenticeship? So when you see an apprenticeship advertised, it will tell you whether it's a level 2, level 3, or possibly even a level 4 and 5 higher apprenticeships. Level 2 tends to be at GCSE level. So if you see a level 2 apprenticeship advertised, it's at a GCSE standard level. All right. Level 3 is advanced. So that is A level or a BTEC advanced level 3 qualification. Level 4, like it says, it's a degree. It's above A level program. So you've got your intermediate, advanced, and higher. More school leavers would usually apply for an intermediate because that's where you normally start off, because as a school leaver, you've not had many opportunities of world of work. So most employers would normally start you off on level 2. However, if you've got good GCSEs at school, there are some opportunities at level 3 for school leavers. If you're 18 and leaving college, because you've already gained a level 3 qualification, hopefully A levels or a BTEC, then you're already at level 3. So you'll be applying at level 3. However, some apprenticeships may start you off at level 2. Okay. And I'm trying to give examples like accounting or joinery or plumbing. Is because if you've done A levels and BTECs, you may not have touched on some of the subject areas. So they sometimes start you off at level 2, even if you've got a level 3 qualifications. So in the main, you start off at level 3, but some occupation areas may say, right, we want you to get the basic understanding at level 2, and within 6 months, 8 months, you move on to level 3. So it all depends on the employer and the occupation you choose, whether some employers will put you straight onto level 2 or start you off at level 3 or start you off at level 2. And then the level 4 is for people who've already attained A level program, level 3 qualifications. So BTEC advanced level, level 3, or A-level program. So the next progression would be a foundation degree or a higher level qualifications. I'm going to come back to that because on my next slide, or a few slides away, I talk about a higher level apprenticeship. So these are the main levels. I think you can go higher than 5 anyway, but these are the main level 2, level 3, and level 4 qualifications. So who offers, like I said earlier, 95% of employers will offer an apprenticeship. The reason for that is the government is really pushing for young people to be employed. They are also, the government's also providing financial incentive to organizations, to companies to take on apprentices as well. Okay, so it's in the interest of employers to take on young people because it's financially benefit. And the government recognised in many organizations the workforce was getting older and the new intake, the young people weren't coming through. So they were really pushing for organizations to be taking on young people, young apprentices. So they are obviously then the future of that organization. So most employers will offer an apprenticeship. From large international organizations to small corner shop businesses as well. So some high street businesses, some businesses that you see in your towns, plus the large organizations. And I've listed a few there: British Aerospace, Civil Service, which I think Brother Mozdin he works for, and I've seen a lot of opportunities there. KPMG and the Big Four that was talked about a few weeks ago, BT, the county councils, high street retailers, small shops. So it ranges from from all these organizations. So most organizations will offer an apprenticeship. Okay, so when do people apply? If you are a year 11 pupil, you might think it's a bit early because I've still got my mock exams to do, or I might be doing them now. I'm not even in January. Some employers, not many, but some employers, especially like British Aerospace and some big companies, start recruiting about now because the process is quite a long process. Again, I'll explain that in a few slides. So they start advertising now. By the time their closing day is possibly January, February, then they have a process. And by the time they employ 2, 3, 4, 5 people that they want to employ, it's going to be May before they employ somebody. So the process of advertising starts now. So school leavers and college leavers, if you are interested, you should start looking at websites about now. If you are interested in working for an organisation like British Aerospace or some civil service or any other, or KPMG, you should go on their websites and have a look, because there should be a mention of apprenticeships. It will give you an explanation for each job that's been advertised, what the job is about, so you can read up on those jobs, and then how to apply as well. Okay, so you should start looking now, because some employers are sort of advertising right now. However, you'll see more and more come on board around January, February time. So start looking now, but January, February, March time, there should be a lot more coming on board for September 21 start. The reason for that, and I mentioned that, is because obviously if you're still at school or college, you won't finish till June, July until you've done your exam. So the start date won't be till July, August, or possibly September. The reason for September is because the qualification that's attached to an apprenticeship through a college or through a university starts in September. So most employers will start the apprenticeship that coincides with the qualification at college or university. However, if you're not at school or not at college, and if you're 18, 19, 20, and you've been in a job and you think, you know what, I want to embark on an apprenticeship, then There are some start dates now. So if you are going on websites, and I'll come to some websites in a while, there are quite a few websites that you can look at, and there are some start dates for apprenticeships now, and next month and the month after. So so people who are not in college, not in school, want to start an apprenticeship, there is opportunity for people to start throughout the year. But because obviously I wanted to mention particularly school leavers and college leavers, obviously you want to wait until you've done your exams before you start your apprenticeship. So apprenticeships are offered all year round, and people can apply. But if you're a school or college leaver, you can start looking and make your applications now, but you can't obviously start until you finish your college qualifications. And the last point, I think this is what I get asked quite a lot. And most young people are a bit unsure about what they want to do. Shall I apply for a college place after school? Shall I, after college, apply for university? Shall I apply for university and not apprenticeship? And, you know, there's quite a lot of confusion in terms of what they should be doing. I always say, and I will always say to my students at college, that you should apply for both. Applying for university or college place is a lot easier. Now, I know people will argue place at university is a bit tricky to apply for, but when I come to an application process, it's actually harder to apply for a job than it is for a university place. So apply, because you have to apply for a university place now. If you're at year 11, you have to start applying for college place around now as well. And it's a lot easier to gain your place by the time you get to January for a university or college. So by January, it's all done and dusted for a university and college. And then you just wait around. But in the meantime, it's worth then keeping an eye out and looking for an apprenticeship. Okay, if you then get an apprenticeship, if you like something and you see and you apply and you get the apprenticeship, then the ball is in your court. You can say to the university that, thank you very much for my place, I've got an apprenticeship, I won't need my place at university, and then you start your apprenticeship. So what I'm trying to say, the ball's in your court. If you apply for both, at least you're virtually guaranteed. Most places at university should be given to you. I find that most people who apply for university will tend to get their place, apart from a few exceptions. Most people who apply for college tend to get a place, maybe not on the course that they wanted, but they will get a place at college. So that's what I mean by getting a place at university and college. It's virtually guaranteed, but it might not be the subject that you want, but nevertheless, the place at college, university is guaranteed by the time you get to January. And then you can continue to apply for an apprenticeship. So the ball is in your court. Apply for both. And then when you get to June, July, August, you can then decide whether you want the university place, you want the college place, or you want the apprenticeship. So the ball's in your court. So I always say, apply for both, whether you know, if you're a little bit unsure. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. And that's my advice to everybody: apply for both apprenticeships and college and university place. I also thought that it'd be important to just mention pay range as well, because I know most people would want sometimes make the decision based on pay, and I always say that you shouldn't really, but I know it's a good incentive for many people. It ranges from around £125, that's the minimum that we get paid for an apprenticeship, right up to £300 plus per week. Okay, now I know immediately people are attracted to the higher end. Okay, not many organisations. I know people like British Aerospace and a couple of other employers pay that top end, but not many. So it ranges from about £125 right through to about £300. Okay, and at the bottom I've put a little grid there that shows an apprenticeship rate, minimum £4.15, Each April, every April, the government changes that rate. So whether it changes again this April coming 2021, I'm not sure at this moment in time. But then a normal job, £4.55, £6.45 for 18 to 20, and then it goes up as your age band increases. So 125 right up to 300. And as you can imagine, if you are aiming for the higher end, the application process is probably a lot harder, and the opportunities are probably less than you'd imagine. So, and it's very competitive if you're going for the top end, which again, I'll come to in a minute. But pay, although it's important and it's very attractive, it should not be the only focus for many people. The pay is again dependent on the level of apprenticeships as well. So level 2, a lot of them will be around 125 to 200. Level 3 might be 200 plus, and then level 4 and 5 might be above 200. But that's only a guide. It can vary, it can be different depending on the level. And remember, you can start off at level 2, and then you can progress within the company. So, don't just go for a level 4. Don't just think about level 3. If you start off at level 2, you're in the organization, you're working for a company, and you can very quickly move up to level 3, level 4, and that the pay band increases while you're in that organization as well. So, the money will increase, the opportunities will increase, but don't limit yourself just because you think you're capable of doing a level 4 and level 3. Take the opportunity. That's what I'm trying to say. Wherever the job, whatever apprenticeships there are, take the opportunity and then see where that takes you. And most, in the main, employers will progress you from a level 2 to level 3 and a level 4 in most cases. Okay. So more school leavers and college leavers, if you think about where you've been for the last 10, 12 years, you've been in education for a long, long time. Some of you might have had a part-time job and you've not been in the world of work as much as older people. If an employer is going to take you on, they are expecting great things from you. They are employing you. They are paying your wages of £700, £800 every month. So they are expecting skills and attributes that you have that you can bring to the organization. Also, the knowledge and skills that you've achieved through your qualification. So at school, at college, possibly even university, because you're applying for apprenticeships, they want to see that you can use those skills at college and university and the knowledge and the qualifications within the company. And you've got to show that on your applications, okay? So employers have really high expectations from an apprentice. They want to see that you can bring in all the attributes that you've gained over the period that you've been in education. Employers need to see a positive attitude as well demonstrated, and these are points that I'm making which are quite obvious because they are obviously investing in you as an individual. They want to see positive attitude demonstrated at the point of interview and even on the application as well. Okay, in order for you to be successful, all the essential skills needed for the job and that you worked on at school and college. You'll have to demonstrate that on your application and the interview as well, which I think I'll talk about a little bit in a minute as well. Apprenticeships can be competitive. Remember, it's a job. You're applying for a job, and many people will be applying for that particular one job or 5 jobs, or whatever jobs there are for that organization. There'll be many people applying. In the current climate, with many people being made redundant, it will be even more competitive. I wanted to mention that as well, because of the current COVID climate and retailers are closing down, many people are being made redundant. I think it's going to be quite even more competitive than it's ever been with applying for jobs and apprenticeships. So it can be a competitive. This is where I'm going back a slide, and it goes without saying that if you want to apply for the good jobs, the big organizations, the companies that give good training and pay well, obviously more and more people will apply for those top end jobs. Okay, so even more competitive for those areas. Okay. On your application, when you do your application, you've got to then highlight all the skills that you've gained. And going back to my original starting point where I said, if you've been at college, if you've been at school, how do you then demonstrate those skills? Because you've not worked as much. You might have had a part-time job, but how do you demonstrate those? And I think many young people forget, being at school and being at college, you've already gained a lot of skills that you don't recognize. Okay.
So Ben, can I just, there's a question that's come up that kind of links in with skills and other employers, etc. A question that's come up that when you look at the comparison from education perspective and an apprenticeship perspective, if say, for instance, 5 years time, if they want to apply for another job in another company, if someone went down the educational route and another person went down the apprenticeship route, would one person be given more advantage than the other, or how would you suggest in that sense?
Yeah, it's hard to say because individual employers would look at the individual applications differently. My view is, if you've been in education, if you've gained a degree, if you've been to college and done A-levels, obviously you've done quite a lot of study, and it doesn't mean it's not worthy of mention. However, if you've had an apprenticeship, you've worked in an organization, you've gained those work-related experience and skills, okay? And then on an application, you're able to talk about those skills and give examples, because a lot of, when you do your applications for any job, sometimes they want you to mention examples. Give us an example of when you've used communication skills. Give an example of when you've worked, when you've been in a situation where you've been stressful and stuff. So your applications, you're able to relate to your work experience possibly better than somebody who's been at university or college. But so from my personal perspective, sometimes you're able to write a better application in 5 years' time when you are going for promotion or when you are going for other job. But some employers may say we prefer a degree. So towards the end, towards my latter slides, I do talk about a comparison between university advantages and apprenticeships anyway. But it just depends on individual employers. Some employers will say, no, we want somebody with a degree from the start, from the outset. So that way, other people might benefit. But yes, in terms of skills, in terms of progression and promotion, somebody who's been in a work environment is able to write possibly a better application because they can mention examples and they've seen what goes on in a workplace. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, Jazakallah, yes.
Okay. So yeah, going back to college and school leavers, I always find when people are writing a personal statement or a CV, they really struggle, especially school and college, because young people don't recognize that they've already gained skills, and because they've never had to write about themselves, they struggle quite a bit. And these are just examples, but I think sometimes when you sit with an adult, you can actually churn out quite a lot of skills that you've already possessed, which young people actually don't see for themselves. Willing to learn. These are employer skills that you've been in school, you've been at college, okay? That obviously shows that you're willing to learn because you've been learning. Commitment. If you finish school, if you finish your college qualification, that's a commitment. You've already shown commitment to be at school, be at college, and finish commitment. So what I'm saying here, when I go along some of these skills, you can relate when you're doing an application to college, Even home, if you do charity work, if you work at madrasa as well. I've done loads of references when I've been at madrasa for teachers who've applied for jobs, and I get asked these questions. And so wherever you've been, whether it's been at school, college, doing charity work, whether you've worked at madrasa or wherever, you can talk about some of these skills quite often. Dependable, reliable, self-motivated. If you're at school and college or university, you've got to do your assignments, you've got to do your coursework. Surely that shows that you're self-motivated. And the last one, where it says self-management, you're managing your time, you're managing your workload. So what I'm saying here is that when you do an exam, when you see a job advertised, apprenticeship, and you start writing an application and they ask for skills and they ask for examples, I know young people could get scared off thinking, well, how am I going to show commitment? How am I going to show teamwork? You use college, you use school, because you've used all these skills in college as well. And you can give examples of teamwork. I know everybody at school and college and university work with others. You do group work, you do group assignments, communication skills, you use them all the time. So you've got to then, think about these skills that they ask for, okay? And these are the skills that the employers are asking for anyway, okay? So use examples within college and university as well. So not just that you've been in workplace. If you've had a part-time job, again, you can mention some of these skills from the part-time job that you've had as well. Prepare yourself. So again, going back, and I have said this a few times when I did my personal statement, people can prepare themselves for an apprenticeship or a job, okay? Employers will always look for good skills that you've gained, all right? How can you gain these skills? And I keep mentioning this, and I can't say it enough. Most people who go to school and a university and college, 90% of the people will gain their qualification, because that's what you're there for. The job of a college and university and school is to make sure that you've got the highest qualification. They all work on targets, schools, colleges and universities. So 95% of people will get their qualifications. So an employer finds it even more difficult to then employ somebody or shift through the applications, not just based on their qualifications. And I'm giving my home example because my daughter's in an apprenticeship. I know when she was writing her application, she was able to talk about lots of other extracurricular activity, other skills that she's used. And I'm going to give you examples. Extracurricular activity, things like first aid course at university, they offer, and college, they offer that. At schools, they offer for you to be prefects. They offer you to be student council. And I know a lot of people shy away because it's extra work. I can't be bothered doing that. But I think people don't realize that when you do your application for a job and you can write these things, your application becomes a lot more worthy of progressing than other people. So things like being a prefect at school, joining in clubs and societies, doing charity work in schools, out of schools, gaining other skills like first aid course or any other course. During lockdown, I was talking to somebody and they said, I did a short course with Cambridge University. And I thought, yeah, you should write that on your application. So any additional stuff that you do looks a lot better on an application than just your qualification. So, prepare yourself for an apprenticeship. Do things in lockdown. When you're at home, you can sign up for short courses. You can sign up for first aid. At school, colleges, you can do first aid courses and other things. If you do charity work, volunteering, then even if it's for a few weeks, you can mention that on your application. So I always stress this quite a lot to a lot of people. 95% of people will get a qualification. Then the employer has to look at, well, what else has this person got that makes them employable? then these are the things, the extracurricular activity that stand out a lot more than other people. Enable you to gain workplace more quickly than they move up the ladder. So we mentioned that if you're in workplace, you can gain more skills. If you've got a part-time job or had a part-time job, that's even better, because then you can mention the skills that you've had as part of the job that you've done, and you can mention the skills that you've gained there. Okay, so the application process. And I mentioned this earlier, some of the big organizations, the reason why they start early, like November, December, January, is because the process can be quite a long-winded process. And by the time they get to employing somebody, it might be May, June before they appoint somebody. And the reason for that, and again, I'll give you some of the big organization example. You know, if it's a job that's paying well, it's a degree apprenticeship, it's paying well, and it's a well sought after apprenticeship, they will get a good 500-600 applications for one job. Okay, and they have to use all the processes I've mentioned here to shift through to get to the best 3, 4, 5, 6 people, how many they're employing. So they have to start early, just to sort of warn people that it's not just as normal. And again, when I talk to a lot of young people at college, when I ask them to write a personal statement and a CV, they always say, oh, I've got one from school, I've had one previously. Those CVs for part-time jobs are very different to ones that you apply for a full-time job. So you need to brush up on your personal statements, bring it up to date. CV, if it's outdated, you need to add things onto it, because when you apply, then your CV has to be updated. So application process usually starts off obviously with an application form. Application forms can actually take a while as well, because there's a lot of detailed information that goes into application forms as well. Online assessment, so that could be the next stage. So once your application is processed and it goes through, the employer might say, okay, we want you to do an online assessment. That could be like an aptitude test, just to see your ability in doing verbal reasoning and that sort of thing. Maths and English assessment, so they might actually do maths and English assessment. Group interviews and one-to-one, so you could finish off with a final one-to-one interview before they take you on. So I wanted to mention this because I wanted people to be aware that it's not as straightforward as making an application and somebody saying yes and no. Be prepared that all these processes may take place. Some organizations might use just a couple of these. Some will use all this process. So just be prepared that it might take a while before you hear from an organization once you've done your application form. And I've put this in bold. Make your application stand out, okay? Highlight your skills. So this is going back to what I've said, your skills that you've gained through your part-time job, your enrichment activity, anything that you've done outside. Talk about, don't be shy to talk about things that you've done outside college, okay? Your knowledge, your qualifications, read about the employer. If you're applying for an apprenticeship, read. They want to know that you are dead keen and you know a little bit about the organizations, because at the interview now, you're guaranteed that you get asked about the company. What do you know about us? What can you tell about our company? What can you tell us about the job that you've applied for? They want you to have done some research about the company. So knowledge, and then your qualification, as well as your passion and desire. How desperately do you want the job? And sometimes it comes out on an application, more so in an interview, but you can show a little passion and desire on your application as well. So you've got to make your application really good, make it stand out, talk about things that you've done, get somebody to read it as an adult, whether it's in the household or somewhere else, get somebody to read. And at this stage, I will mention, get somebody to read, spell check, make sure you've not done any spelling mistakes and all that. Those are really important highlighted points. And the final thing is, sorry, just going back to the top, application forms. Read the job descriptions, because they want you to base your application form on the job descriptions, because they're giving you a job description. That is what they want from you, and that's what the job entails. When you write your job application, they want you to mention things that you've done that relate to the job description. If you miss those essentials, okay, then they will not even look at your application. The essentials on a job advert are the ones that you have to talk about. You have to mention those essentials, because that's what they want from you. So you've got to talk about those skills that you've gained on an application. So when you see a job description, when you read a job, sometimes they say these are essentials. The essentials you have to mention and you have to talk about. Desirables, although it says desirable, if you've got it, it's better to mention all the desirables as well, and your application stands a better chance of progressing. Okay, so read the application, read the job description, mention everything that's highlighted on a job advert. And you know, there's a difference between over bragging about yourself and being overconfident. Okay, and you've got to find that fine line. I don't see any harm in being overconfident on your application, even at interviews, but don't brag. There's a difference between sort of bragging a little bit and being overconfident, because that's what they want to see. They want to see a confident young person applying for a job. And then the final, under current COVID conditions, it's going to, I'm not sure, but it's going to be unlikely that any face-to-face interviews possibly might be taking place. I don't know. It's really difficult to say. At the moment, I do feel for young people leaving school and leaving college, because employers, obviously, we watch the news, retailers are closing down. Opportunities might be slightly less than they were in the previous years. You might not see as many job opportunities that you would have done maybe in 12 months ago or 2 years ago. But there are lots of other opportunities. When it comes to the interview process, in the main, the interview process may take online. You may not even get seen face to face, but then again, it might be different. So it's hard to say at this moment in time, because we've not been in this position. Just to let you know, the job that I've got now, my job was all done online, and I didn't see the person face to face. So, you know, it's unlikely that you'll get to see some people face to face 2-3 times. Maybe if the final one-to-one interview, they might want to see you. Group interviews, obviously, they can't do that, because it was they want to see how you cope in a group situation. But the online assessments would definitely take place. So it's difficult to say at this stage how your interview process will be, but the top 3 will definitely take place, and then final one-to-one might be face-to-face. But obviously we are under very difficult circumstances, and each employer will play it differently. So just be aware, a lot of your application and interview and assessments may take up online, and you might need to read up on how to do Skype interviews. Sorry, I'm hesitating because at some point, Molana, maybe in January, somebody ought to do a session on interview and interview techniques and what to watch out for, and how to.
Possibly.
I think that might be a session in itself at some point. But interview is important, because I think that would be, a lot more used. It might not be Skype, but it might be on Zoom or whatever interviews taking place, and things to be watching out for. So that might be a session for the future.
Yeah. I just questions just come in regards to, I guess, I think you might be speaking of CVs in there, but a question just come in here to say that, does that mean you can't have a CV that fits all? Because obviously different employers might ask for different things when you're applying for apprenticeships.
Yeah, no, good question. A CV, in order to write a CV, you ought to have a standard general CV that you apply to most jobs, okay? You can tweak your CV a little bit. With a CV, there's always a cover letter that goes with the CV. The cover letter mentions the job that you're applying for, the specific job. So your CV remains quite general, okay? You can change it a little bit here and there, but it always remains quite general. You always attach a cover letter with a CV. The cover letter then becomes specific for the job that you're applying for. So in the cover letter, you will mention your specific skills that you have, the specific knowledge that you have for that job. So when I talked about reading the job description for the apprenticeship or for the job, you have to then mention those skills in the cover letter and keep your CV broad. So your CV basically is your life so far. So you're keeping it quite general in terms of qualification, but your cover letter will then break it down further and talk about the specific skills for that job that you're applying for. Okay. And that sort of leads on to the next slide. So if you are interested, and like I said, apply for both. If you're at college, if you're at school, apply for college. So you got your college place. By the time you get to January, you'll have had your college place, and it's virtually sort of guaranteed. If you're at college and applying for university, by January, or possibly February, you will have had your university place confirmed as well. Okay, and then apply for apprenticeships. Start looking at apprenticeships and apply, and then see what happens. And then the ball's in your court. So, that's what I would aim for, and that's what I recommend people should do. Talk to friends, talk to family members. Word of mouth. If you speak to any business people, advertising and anywhere else, word of mouth is the best form of advertising. If you talk to friends, if you talk to family members, if they're working in an organisation, there's a very good chance that they can then talk to their employer and get you in that organisation a lot more easier than you would if you try and apply individually as well. So talk to friends, talk to family members. They will advise you. They will talk to their employers wherever they're working, and they can get you in that organisation where they work as well. So that's always a good starting point. Talk to your school, college, university. There's always advisors at school and college. You can talk to them. They will give you advice on apprenticeships, what different apprenticeships are out there. And colleges, maybe not as much as school, but colleges are always getting apprenticeships sent to them. So they'll always know about different employers who are advertising. And start your research. Prepare a personal statement. This is what I said last time I was on. Whether you're applying for university or not, everybody, young people, should have a personal statement, because when you do your application, as part of writing a statement about yourself, your personal statement is something you can use quite often. Okay, so brush up on your personal statement or start one if you've not started one. And what we've just mentioned here, CV, get your CV updated, and then CV can be quite general, but the cover letter can be quite specific. From my experience though, applying for an apprenticeship, a CV is rarely used. For an apprenticeship, it's mainly a job application process, online application. But there may be cases that you might get asked about attaching your CV. So get these ready, get a CV ready, get a personal statement ready. And then if you see a job, then at least you're ready to apply, because The other thing I've probably not put on the slides as well, some have closing dates, and if you see a job and the closing date's in 3 days' time, then you're sort of scuffling quickly to write a CV and personal statement. You know, if you've got it there, then at least then you can start sending CVs and personal statements and applications off quicker because you've got all that ready. Some really good websites out there for apprenticeships as well. .gov is the obvious one. Career Map is a really good one. Not going to uni, yes, that's a website that exists, yeah, and it's supposed to be quite good, that one as well. Amazing Apprenticeships. National Career Service is a good place where you can search for apprenticeships. But also, if you want to work for British Aerospace or Rolls-Royce or Jaguar or BMW or whoever, whichever company, civil service, you can go directly to their company websites as well, and they will tell you about apprenticeships on their company websites as well. So don't be afraid to go directly onto company websites, or if you want a general search, you can go onto any apprenticeship websites as well. There are quite a lot of good ones as well. I was going to share this, but obviously you want to see. In the next week, World Skills, and through college where I used to work, we used to take 3-4 buses to Birmingham because there's a big skills apprenticeship at the NEC in Birmingham show. It's a skills show, and loads of organisations were there, but they're doing it all online. So if you are interested, there'll be some live talkers from British Aerospace and other engineering companies. worldskillsuk.org, and I think it's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There's loads of speakers, talks based on apprenticeship. So worldskillsuk.org, and all these different websites are really good too. I think I'm coming towards the end, but I just thought it's worth mentioning because I think this is where people are always asking, you know, what should I do? Shall I apply for university? What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? And I just thought I'll just mention this before I finish. University, if you want to go towards an occupation where it involves becoming a doctor or a dentist or a handful of other occupations, then you will need a degree. You know, that's a specific requirement of that occupation. So, you know, there's no apprenticeship route. So depending on what you want to do, it might be worth looking at. But doctors, dentists, I can't think of many more, optometry, but you can do that with apprenticeship as well nowadays. Do your research, but you know, some occupations will only want degrees. So that's the advantages of university. At university, and this is an important point, you can choose your degree. Whichever degree you want to do at university, you decide which one you want to do. When you get employed as an apprentice, you are doing a qualification based on the job that you've taken on. Okay, so you don't get to choose which qualification, you don't get to choose which degree through an apprenticeship. It's what they are offering as part of the job. Okay, so I'm not saying that's a disadvantage, but it's just something to bear in mind. Okay, so if you go to university, you decide, you choose an apprenticeship because you've chosen a job area, it's related to the job. Okay, so NVQ or a degree is based around that job. Again, the third point is not always the case, but from my experience as well, when I look for jobs, sometimes the first thing it says, have you got a degree? So some employers for some jobs will immediately say, we want a degree. So if you go to university and you've got a degree for life. Nobody can take that away from you. But sometimes promotion can become a little bit easier because you've got a degree. And some jobs, like I said, will ask for the first thing, say, we need a degree, first class degree or second class degree. And then you're able to apply for that job more than the people who haven't got a degree. And like I said, once you've got it for life. Whereas an apprenticeship, now everybody knows if you go to university, you've got to take out a student loan over a 4-year period or 3-year period. So with an apprenticeship, the advantage is there's no long-term student loans to pay back. All right. So again, financially, you are better off. But I always say, don't make that a decision because sometimes, like I said, university, although you come out with a student, I don't like calling it a debt. It's an investment, because an investment, you've got yourself a degree. So it's an investment. Although you're paying money back, you've got a degree, and you've got a degree for life. So it's more of an investment than a debt. With an apprenticeship, real life work experience, that's what you're gaining. And that's a question that came in earlier, because you're gaining real life work experience as part of an apprenticeship. You're gaining on the job training and qualification. So whether it's an NVQ or a degree, not all employers will offer a degree. And I've talked about degrees. Only the big companies, the big organizations will offer a degree. Others will offer an NVQ level 2, level 3, and then possibly that's it. But there's nothing stopping you continuing doing your degree part-time while working through that job. So you can do a part-time degree yourself once you finish your apprenticeship and you're working for that company. And the other advantage of an apprenticeship, you're getting paid from the start. So you start getting paid. So yeah, apprenticeship financially, you're a lot better off. But degree, once you've got a degree, you've got it for life. And, the opportunities for universities can be endless. But like I said, apprenticeships are becoming a lot more acceptable in terms of promotion within the organisation as well. Okay, and I know Brother Mohsin might say a few words later on about his experience working in the civil service and how he got in. And I think I've finished. If there's any questions, Mohsin, from the panel, from the chat rooms, anything, or you might want to mention.
Yeah, we do have a few questions. First question was in regards to, obviously, when you were comparing the university and apprenticeships, you mentioned in regards to a degree. What if the apprenticeship is actually providing a degree? Would that be classed as the same as a degree from a university, or would it be different?
Yeah, good question. Yes, it's absolutely yes. The degree offered through an apprenticeship is a validated university degree. So yes, the degree that's offered through an apprenticeship is a degree. Most of the time, not all the time, most of the times through an apprenticeship, it's obviously because you're working, it's a part-time degree. So it's going to take longer. A normal degree through full-time university takes 3 years. Through an apprenticeship, it's going to take possibly 5 years because you're doing it part-time. Most apprenticeship degrees are done through a college. It's a fully pledged degree, rubber stamped by a university, but you're doing it at a college because it's just convenient for an organisation to tie themselves with a college, a local college. Just to give you an example, my daughter's at Blackpool and Fylde College doing her degree, and she's in her 5th year. But obviously, British Aerospace have sort of tied themselves with Blackpool and Fylde College because it's a local college and they offer a full degree. So yes, through an apprenticeship, if you are doing a degree, it's a validated proper degree, but it just takes longer because it's a part-time degree.
Yeah, Jazakallah. Another question is that if you're working in an apprenticeship, are you contractually locked into that company for a certain number of years, or can you leave the apprenticeship and just get another job if you wanted to?
Yes, good question again. It could be different, but if an organisation is investing money in your apprenticeship for 2, 3, possibly even 4 years, contractually, they may say that you have to stay with them for another 2 years. So once you finish your apprenticeship, they may, in their contract, say that, you know, we would like you to stay for at least another 2 years before you move on to another job. Otherwise, you may have to pay back money for the degree that you've done. Okay, which is known, and I've known it to happen in the past. But some companies may not. You know, and it's understandable. You know, if a company is paying for your qualifications at NVQ and NVQ3, which is obviously a little bit cheaper than a degree. But remember, a degree are worth about £9,000 a year. So if over a 3-4 year period, if they're investing £35,000 to pay for your degree and you don't have to pay a penny towards it, it's understandable that in the contract, they may build in that, you know, they want you to stay for at least 12 months or 2 years before you move on. So yeah, different companies might have different stance, but I'd be surprised if an organisation didn't somewhere tie in that, you know, they want you to sort of stay on for at least 12 months or 2 years before you move on.
Jazakallah. Just 2 more questions that I have at the moment. Unless if anyone else has any questions, then do send them in, inshallah. Another one that's come through is, can you do an apprenticeship that allows you to work and study at the same time? I'm guessing they're asking in the perspective of working separate to their current, obviously, because apprenticeships are a job as well as studying. That's the whole idea of it. I'm guessing they're meaning in terms of part-time work elsewhere whilst you're doing the apprenticeship and studying with them.
For different companies, yeah. So yeah, yes, you can work part-time elsewhere and get an apprenticeship at the same time. Yes, you can do that if that's what they mean. Yeah. So you can work part-time somewhere else and continue to work somewhere else. Apprenticeship, like I said, it's a job, so it's working from 9 to 5. I know there's no 9 to 5 jobs anymore, but it's working to 9 to 5. So if you want to work part-time in the evenings, at the weekends, you can do that separately. But your apprenticeship and the qualifications you get is based on the full-time job that you are doing. And the part-time work is a separate entity in itself. I think is that what it means?
Yeah, I think that's what it probably means, because obviously, generally speaking, apprentices are work and studying at the same time. And it ties in well, to be honest, with the fact that obviously, as you mentioned, that my experience with apprenticeships, I personally did an apprenticeship as well with the civil service. And a question that's actually come up was that my parents are originally from the Indian continent and have that mindset of you're only successful if you go to university. I think you put it down very nicely there, where you made the comparisons. But they're asking that, have you come across any brothers and sisters who have succeeded through the apprenticeship route as opposed to the university route, and so that they can give some a bit of a word of wisdom to them as well, so that they can get a bit of an understanding of how apprenticeship is equally as accreditable as a university degree.
Yes, in many cases, as far as I'm concerned, you know, in particular, if you get to your, was it 2 weeks ago when Brother talked about the Big Four, KPMG and PwC and those organisations, and I know those are the top end qualifications and organisations, but those are successful people who've been through the channels and got an apprenticeship. Whether it's a graduate apprenticeship or just through after leaving college, they've worked their way up and got into the organisation. And then once you're in that organisation and got the qualifications, some of the large organisations want to keep you because they've invested in you, and they will open up doors, open up opportunities for you within that organisation as a team leader, as a manager, and they want you to continue to progress in those organisations. I've known people working at British Aerospace who've got in, done their degree over the 4 or 5 years, and then gone on to, you know, again, becoming team leaders and managers. Again, I'm giving examples of British Aerospace because they're an international employer. opportunities for people to then go abroad, especially in the Middle East, to do project work, project management, and do 3-4 years there and then come back again. I've known people. Now I know I'm talking a lot about, but I also know people who've become like car mechanics. You know, you can get apprenticeships working in garages, working as a car mechanic. I've known people who've started an apprenticeship as an electrician, plumbers. When I used to work at a college, you know, people signed up, did the course, and now they are now fully pledged electricians and plumbers, and making a lot more money than I am. So yes, it can lead to some better things and more prosperous work later on.
Jazakallah. Okay, so obviously, as requested, I'll just mention briefly about my experience.
Yes.
As you mentioned, Samantha, obviously I work for civil service, and I actually went in through the apprenticeship scheme, the fast track apprenticeship scheme, back in 2015. And at that point, obviously, a top tip which you mentioned, and it made me smile at that point because that's exactly what I did in regards to applying for university and applying for apprenticeship both. I was actually thinking of going to apprenticeship, then decided that, well, maybe so I was thinking of going to university, but then an apprenticeship opportunity came up, and that's where I decided to just apply for it. I actually got my place in university. I got my student finance was sorted, my accommodation was sorted, everything was in place. And then when results day came, I was told that I got accepted onto an apprenticeship scheme on the same day as I was told about the universities. And that was when I had to make my decision whether I go down the apprenticeship route or whether I go down to university. And now I can say that I'm very glad that I took that route of the apprenticeship, because alhamdulillah now, like as you say, whilst you do an apprenticeship, there's many ways to progress. When I first started, I was doing a very basic role, but the pay in civil service generally through the fast track apprenticeship is the normal pay at that grade. So whatever grade I went into as that's the normal pay that you get paid when you go into the civil service, because I did the level 4 higher apprenticeship in business management. But it's kind of as you say, you can gradually build up whilst you're in the business, in the company. And alhamdulillah, now I'm on a managerial role, where I have a lot of responsibility in terms of IT side, or in the systematic side, the changes around the company, etc. So I myself, alhamdulillah, can say that I'm very glad I went down the apprenticeship route as opposed to the university route. And obviously, as you say, now if I wanted to go to university part-time, I'm free to do so. Now I've completed the apprenticeship, I've completed my studies in that sense. I've got a secure job. At the same time, if I wanted to, I can still go back and do university. But with the fast track apprenticeship, I think that as many other apprenticeships are, as you said, that the age levels are not there anymore. They used to be where they used to be, mainly for 16 to 24-year-olds. I remember when I started, I had someone who was a car salesman, and he had started at the age of 35, and he decided he wanted to do an apprenticeship. So he joined the same apprenticeship that I was on. So that was my experience with the apprenticeships. And I obviously, when I teach in madrasa, etc., I mentioned to the students there when they asked me that, also, what did you do? How did you end up where you are now? And that's where I try to explain to them that the opportunities, when they come, we just got to take them. I think that's the reality of it. You've got to take the opportunities as they come. And with civil service, if anyone wants any ideas as to the different apprenticeships in civil service is quite widespread. So the apprenticeships are always going out. Even now at the moment, you'll find at least about 10-15 different apprenticeships available across the civil service. So they're all wide range available, and as you say, there's a lot of different opportunities out there. One last question that's just come in, Sabanka, from one person, is with regards to that they've completed their apprenticeship in railways, but is now jobless. How can I get a job and opportunities?
Okay. Apprenticeship, like I said earlier, it is a job. It's a job that has been employed through an organization. Now, under current circumstances, obviously there may be redundancies, there may be cutbacks, they may lose a job. So Nothing's guaranteed in that sense. So once you've done your apprenticeship, once you've gained your qualification, to get another job, it's just like applying for another job. Now, you've got to then mention all the skills and work experience that you've gained through that apprenticeship on your next applications. Now, did you say it was National Rail, a rail network, was it?
Yeah, in railways.
Yeah,
that's what I said, yeah.
Railways. So it's more engineering and construction related. So you've got to use your strengths and your skills that you've gained and your qualifications that you've gained to apply for the next job through that. Now, I know I've mentioned NVQs, but it's not always NVQs that are offered. Some organisations will offer their own training, on-the-job training with their own certified qualifications. So NVQs are the common ones and the degree through universities, but places like National Rail may offer their own standardised qualifications, but nevertheless, it's highlighting all the skills that you've gained by working and doing an apprenticeship. That's obviously going to get you the next job.
Yeah, I mean, you could obviously add as well in terms of the levels, depending on what level they did. Could they possibly apply for a higher level, or would they have to?
Yeah, you can apply for higher level, definitely, but just to get back into work, just to get back into an organisation, don't limit yourself to a higher position. Maybe try and get back into a company, into an organisation at the level that you're working at. I know it's not easy for people to go back to a lower level, but don't dismiss it completely, because like I said earlier, and like we all know, with so many redundancies, so many companies cutting back, so many organisations closing down, opportunities this next 12 months might be far less than there has ever been. And it's worth coming back down to a starting level and then working your way up in an organisation. So if you see a job advertised in a company that you think, what, I can do this job, but it is slightly low pay, or it's always worth getting back into work, because I always believe that working is obviously is better than not working, but getting back into work and then working your way up again it might be a thing to do. And sometimes you can move up very quickly in an organisation depending on your skills, because if you've got the skills, if you've got the qualifications, then the opportunities will then come back. And in 12 months' time, inshallah, COVID might no longer be there, and the economy might be sort of moving back up again. So things might improve again, and your skills that you've got will move you up the ladder quickly, more than anybody else.
Jazakallah. It's about just over to you to announce the next week's session, and then inshallah we'll wrap it up there.
Yeah, just next, it was in 2 weeks' time. Just give me 1 second. I'm just going to open up. In 2 weeks' time, the next session is based around careers in construction, and that's going to be Sunday, 6th of December. Again, the same time, 6 o'clock. Careers in construction and possibly engineering. I think this is going to be combined. Delivered by Brother Khalid and Brother Afan. They will both come online and talk about careers in construction and engineering. I believe they are both qualified, and they went possibly through the university route, and they might be able to talk to you a little bit about how they got there and what they do and what the careers are and the opportunities are in construction and engineering. So that's in 2 weeks' time, Sunday, 6th of December at 6 p.m.
Yeah, as you can see if you're on YouTube, then you can see the poster on your screens, and obviously inshallah in the next few coming days the poster will be sent out, so do stay tuned in and keep your eyes peeled for that. Inshallah we'll end it at that. First of all, I would like to say Jazakallah to Sabbir uncle for a very insightful presentation in apprenticeships, and we hope all that joined in got something out of that. And if you do have any further questions, then do not hesitate to contact the Team Hope team, and I'm sure that they will pass on the message to Sabbir uncle or the relevant individuals, even if it's with anything in regards to employability, in terms of skills, in terms of specific careers, etc. And if you feel like there's anything else that would be beneficial as well, do contact the team, and inshallah we will try and provide it for you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept whatever has been said, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us all on the straight path. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum.